I'm Snoopy.
Hello everyone, Jester Bell is here, aka Female Frodo Baggins, and you are about to get a different video today, that is if I could have gotten it done, but something came up that kind of caught my attention that I wanted to talk about, because yesterday we got our first trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie, or the first full trailer, and it was announced that Brie Larson, star of Captain Marvel, was going to be the voice of Rosalina. And I had my own thoughts on that, believe it or not, positive thoughts. And the thing is, the trailer came out, and I didn't see any major controversy around this trailer. I'm not a huge fan of the Mario movies. They are what they are. The creators of Mario have said that they've always had this character run off of not having much story. That is how they've done the movies. The movies just kind of amount to be theme park rides for people who are familiar with the games. It's fine, and I'm not ever expecting them to change from that because it's what's worked for them for all these years, and I can't fault a company for just doing what's made them money all these years. But the interesting thing about it is that there was just no drama that I could see around this trailer or the casting until Grace Randolph started to speak up about it. And Grace Randolph has been causing a lot of stirs lately. Now, for those who don't know, Grace Randolph is a reviewer and commentator here on YouTube and over on Twitter, and she's kind of gotten herself into trouble in the past because I follow her for her box office analyses, however you say it, and I think that she's actually very good at box office analysis and just being objective about that, and that's why I follow her. But her reviews are crazy, and she had kind of an infamous take on the Mario movie that where she clearly did not play the games, and she admitted that, but it was just a very interesting time to see her be introduced into the world of Mario, and despite not playing the game, she tried to speak for the audience in terms of saying what they would enjoy and what they would not enjoy.
Back to the story, I would also say it's a little disturbing, because apparently in the games, Bowser, I had to look it up, Bowser is obsessed with Princess Peach, and has been for a very long time. But in today's marketplace, post-Me Too, to hear Bowser declare that he's going to ask Princess Peach to marry him, which apparently isn't a spoiler, because I looked it up and it happens in the games all the time. What if she doesn't want to? And he's like, then I'll destroy her kingdom and kill everyone she knows. And you're like, wow, that's stalker behavior. And I would say, kind of makes this not appropriate for children, quite frankly. And in fact, I would argue that most of the movie is about who's going to date Princess Peach. And that's it. My jaw was on the floor. I'm like, is that really what this movie is about? That is a really outdated story. I think fans and just moviegoers in general, and everybody associated with this film, deserve more.
Yeah, and I just find that very, very funny because the Mario movie in and of itself is just kind of westernizing Peach to make her more of a tomboy character. They avoided, her having to be saved at the end, which I actually have a video on coming very soon. But anyway, Grace got herself into trouble about Mario before. And so for this trailer, she said, still don't care for Mario, and Universal claims all trailer reactions. She's not going to react to that. And I think that's fine. I think it's perfectly fair for a person to say, look, I don't know this franchise. I don't get it. I got myself in trouble for trying to talk about it before. I'm not going to talk about it. So all is fair on that front. But then Grace, despite saying that she wouldn't comment on this trailer, decided to comment on the trailer on Twitter. And once again, we know Brie Larson has been cast as Rosalina. So Grace Randolph says, if anything can tank the new Super Mario Brothers movie, it's Brie Larson. And Grace got so much hate for this, with somebody saying, I thought you didn't like toxic hate channels. Why are you giving them this? She was the first victim of those channels. It's not toxic. Flop after flop after flop. I think it's a proven point she has a likability issue. And she basically goes on just arguing with people over Brie Larson's casting. And here's somebody who's arguing with her saying about the Mario movie, here's an idea, don't watch it. And she says, I'm not going to. Later on this topic, I did see her say that her Mario review caused her an immense amount of turmoil, so she will not be talking about the movie, which once again is fine, but I don't understand why she's making more turmoil for herself with this, with flying off against Brie Larson. So in response to herself, arguing with these people back and forth, she put hate channels are the scourge on entertainment and the industry. But this idea that we can't therefore say anything negative when there's plenty of evidence to back it up is insane. I just spent all last week defending Elle Fanning in Predator and got a ton of hate for defending Barbie. Will Super Mario 2 be a success? Almost certainly, but Brie Larson has a history of making comments on press tours that are not helpful and turn off audiences. She was also a big part of the reimagining Behind the Marvels, a film which I gave a good review, but that sequel ruined a billion-dollar character. By the way, I hate to do this. I hate to call out Grace, but, she talked in this thing about getting hate for her takes on Mario, but even as she says she didn't want to be a part of the discussion on that because of the hate, she continues to talk about and have these really heinous takes. Like, in terms of explaining to people why she wouldn't cover Mario, she said, I think that the female roles in the Mario franchise are really awful, and I just don't want to get involved in the discussion. Also, maybe we can get a little insight as to what Grace sees as the problem with the female roles in Mario. She says, isn't the whole setup of the movie if Peach will date Bowser or Mario? And I'm seeing motherly thrown around for both Peach and Rosalina. These are not girl power roles. So Grace believes that being motherly is not a girl power role. Okay. I know I rambled and I was trying to bring to you all of these various tweets from Grace Randolph in this video. I hope I can turn this into a cohesive thing. I have a big problem with Grace Randolph's entire approach to this. Let's start with the Brie Larson thing. Now, everyone on the internet space knows that Brie Larson got an intense amount of hate from the internet over her role in Captain Marvel and how she portrayed the character in her comments in real life. And to give a little context about that, people were already primed to hate Captain Marvel. Why? Because she had already been turned into a uber serious, unlikable, narcissistic character in the comics, and that's what fueled a lot of the hate going into it. And Brie Larson, with some of the way she acted on interviews and the things she said, leaned right into that persona, and that is what blew up because she was exactly what people projected that she might be and thought she was going to be, and so that created outrage, that created a lot of videos, that created a lot of views and revenue, and that fueled that whole train. So, but that was a long time ago. That was back in 2019. And guys, maybe you don't know this, but Brie Larson has actually changed. Over the years, Brie Larson seemed to wise up about the whole game that the media was playing. This whole, uber feminist personality. She did an interview where she talked about how men shouldn't be reviewing movies so much or something like that. Brie wised up and she realized that persona was not going to work for her. So you've seen it, and this has not been a fluke. This has not been a one-time thing. Over the past years now, Brie has had multiple instances where the media is trying to trap her into, that kind of behavior. They're trying to get her to comment on a volatile subject. They're trying to get her to comment on the toxic misogynist who came after her. And each time, Brie has avoided it. And she said, in the last one, you're trying to involve me in something I'm not a part of. So Brie actually wised up. This whole high on herself game that she was kind of playing during the Captain Marvel press tour and, putting down and engaging with the supposed toxic misogynist. She realized, that all that's a game. All that's a game, spark outrage, get clicks for the media and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't leading her to any place good. So Brie wised up on that. And once again, you see her multiple times in interviews throughout the years since then where she's avoided that. She has not attacked any of the fan base. She's actually been quite cordial. She was perfectly fine with people on the Marvel's press tour when it finally came out. And Brie has been able to get other roles for herself and be successful with it. So Brie Larson is actually a rare case in Hollywood where she's learned from the mistakes of the past, and she's learned that there isn't anything good at the end of it. Unlike, Rachel Zegler, for example, as of this recording, is just continuing to perpetuate it, but Brie Larson wised up. And I've actually gained a bit of respect for Brie Larson for realizing that. Now, I've obviously done a lot of videos where Captain Marvel is on like the thumbnail, but that's talking about the character and what was done with the character. It's not talking about Brie Larson, the current person. Like, believe it or not, I was actually happy to see Brie Larson get this role of Rosalina, because I'm like, oh, finally, she's got a role in a major movie again, so that her entire career does not need to be defined by Captain Marvel. It could be a great comeback for her. And Rosalina, she's more of an angelic character in the games. They change every character almost in the Mario movies from the games. She's still taking on a very motherly position as this character. I think it could be really good for her. And the thing is, I wasn't seeing any major channel or a person with a major following bash Brie Larson for getting this role. I saw people casting that she was going to, wish casting she was going to get a lot of hate, and maybe some smaller people were angry about it. But the people, who actually have followings, the people who actually have immersed themselves in this and are paying attention to what actors and celebrities are saying, they know Brie has wised up and that she's changed, and she hasn't said anything in years to offend people or cause an upset, and she's actively avoided that. And so I think that Brie is actually kind of having a comeback in her career with all of this. So here's my problem with Grace. Grace was the first big person with a following to come at Brie Larson and say, if anything can take the new Super Mario Brothers, it's Brie Larson. Now, if you want to bring up, because Grace does this, if you want to bring up concerns, like, you have a subject, an actor who has been immersed in controversy in the past, and you might want to question, bring them on, and Grace does see all the business side of it, then I'm fine with them bringing up that question. I don't think that they're correct in this case. I don't think, this movie is probably going to make more than the first one. No one is going to go, oh, Brie Larson offended some people, 9 years ago in a movie, 7 or 9 years ago. How long ago was Captain Marvel? So I'm not going to take my kids to that. No one is going to do that. And Brie does not have a PR problem anymore with how she's been acting. So to have Grace come out and word it in this way, like, if anything can take the new Super Mario Brothers, is Brie Larson, that's pretty tone deaf. But if she had left it at that, then I could have maybe not said anything. But then she goes on to say, hate channels are the scourge on the entertainment and the industry. But the idea that we therefore can't say anything negative when there's plenty of evidence to back it up is insane. To be the one that you yourself come out and say that Brie Larson maybe is potentially going to tank the Mario movie, and then call other channels hate channels when they were not doing that. I didn't see anyone prominent hating on Brie Larson. In fact, most people have kind of realized she's moved on from all of that. That is insane. That is insane to me that Grace would say that. And who are the hate channels here exactly? Who are you referring to? I know I've been referred to as the killer of all fun on here because I'm critical, but Grace calls other people hate channels, just a broad statement, and then also says that it's a false idea that you can't say anything negative when there's evidence to back it up. And it's aren't there plenty of channels on YouTube that make long videos and multiple videos that back up their points about why they feel the way they do? Certainly. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if she lumps me in with a hate channel, because most of my videos are on the problems with the industry. I also, when I find something that I like recently the Frankenstein movie, I will praise that as well. But it is true, I talk about all the problems with the industry because I care, because this is the industry and this is the medium of art that I've cared about since I was younger. And so, of course, I'm going to be critical. And part of the reason why some people get so frustrated on here is because, we're constantly dismissed and told that we're just there, just to spread hate. And that becomes very frustrating. We're illegitimized. Don't listen to those people and their criticisms. They're just there to spread hate. So, yeah, I have a problem with Grace here saying that, hate channels are a scourge on entertainment and the industry. And, when she is the one, she's I'm not a part of those hate channels, but she is the one bringing up hate against Brie Larson, and then also saying, that you're not a hateful person if you back up what you're saying negatively in your criticisms. And it's like, but in the past she has written off other people as just being filled with hate. Like, that's what she was doing with Predator Badlands, last week. Is that she said that there was going to be a romance between Elle Fanning as the robot, the synth, and the Predator himself. And that got people riled up. And then she was like, the incel brigade is after me. And so it's like, but there was never a romance in the movie. So why did you say that and then call everybody who disagreed with you incels? Like, aren't you the one drumming up controversy and anger towards that movie where there isn't any? But okay, here's the thing about this. I don't know why Grace is doing this. I don't know why she's bringing this up, because it would be valid to maybe bring up controversial person in the past. Is this going to affect the movie? But it's like Brie has not said anything controversial in years, and I wasn't seeing anyone widespread have a problem with her being cast in this movie. So why is Grace bringing this up whilst calling other people hate channels and trying to make it, and she is the one bringing up Brie Larson being a problem? And I don't know. Listen, I can't know what is going on in someone's mind, because people will cast things into my mind and motivations behind me all the time without knowing me. But I'm just wondering, is Grace bringing up this about Brie Larson because she is hoping for something to tank this film? Because with her attitude with those other tweets of somebody saying, don't watch the film, don't worry, I won't, or her talking about how she hates the roles of women in these Mario movies, I'm wondering if she is talking like this because she is hoping that there is going to be something against this film, because she really, really has a problem with the Super Mario Brothers movie, because the roles of women in particular make her uncomfortable, which is what she's brought up multiple times, which is funny because the roles of the women in the movies are actually changed to be, more accommodating to people like Grace. But anyway, yeah, my point behind this video, though, is the point of making this video is I just have a huge problem that there's blanket statements made about people on YouTube who are critical of the industry and actresses and things that have been said. And, I wasn't even on YouTube when the Brie Larson thing was happening. At the time, I was just a Marvel fangirl who wanted everything to be good. I was actually hoping that the Captain Marvel film would be really good. And I thought that the Brie Larson hate at the time was overblown. But I just want to say, I just have a problem with people like Grace who will make blanket statements on people who are negative about the industry and calling stuff out and say, oh, those are the hate channels, when she herself is acting this way. And going back to Predator Badlands, spreading this idea that there was going to be a romance in the movie, and then calling anyone who was upset by that incels, and saying that it's the other people who are just filled with hate, and, complaining that she got hate for it when she was the one saying things about it that weren't even true, and she was the one calling people who disagree with her names. That is the kind of stuff that escalates things and brings up more hate against a movie. And, Mario Galaxy wasn't getting anything I saw against it, nothing widespread, and she is the one who is drumming up controversy around it. So I just have a big problem with someone like her, trying to other people and saying that they are the hate channels, and without having any self-awareness that she herself has drummed up more frustration and more negativity around these movies with the way that she has been talking about them. So, I wish that she would see the log in her own eye before calling it out on others by doing this. And if she really does not like Mario, then she should just stick to not saying anything about it. I'm fine with that, and that's what she originally said. She said she's not even going to watch the movie, but if so, I wouldn't be on Twitter calling out how the roles of women in these movies are awful, and how Rosalina and Peach or Rosalina in particular are motherly, and that's not girl power, or anything like that. Just don't talk about it. The reason why people come at you for these takes is that they're absurd. It's absurd to say that the roles of the women in the Mario franchise are awful when we, the actual fans, know that these are good roles, like as good as they can be considering the movies don't want to have much plot, but that there's nothing wrong with having a motherly character. But just to wrap up on this part a bit more, it just bothers me that Grace seems to not associate a character being motherly with girl power here. But the thing about the Mario franchise, which she does not know, is yes, they have plenty of female characters that are strong, but Mario in the Japanese version and the one we usually get in the games has its female character usually very feminine, and the Mario movies have actually made a lot of its characters more tomboyish in the case of Princess Peach. Or with Rosalina, while she's still very motherly, there definitely seems to be emphasis on the action aspect of her character in the trailer, and these are changes I believe that they made to westernize it with what is seen as acceptable portrayals of female characters in Western society right now. Because apparently some people believe that roles seen as feminine, like being mothers, for example, is associated with weakness, and for women to appear strong, they need to be in roles that are more traditionally associated with masculinity, like engaging in fighting or action. And Grace seems to also subscribe to these ideas, but interestingly enough, that still isn't good enough for her with the changes that they've made to the Mario franchise. And she needs to realize this is why people respond the way they do to her takes on Mario. They're just so absurd. It isn't even a difference of opinion. They're just completely absurd takes on the Mario movies and the franchise behind them. They're just wrong. And it all kind of stems from, in my opinion, what is a very poor view about what legitimizes female characters in the first place. That just frustrated me. What do you guys think of all of this? And do you think that like Brie Larson might be able to have a comeback with this Mario movie and her role in this movie? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about Grace? And it's like I'm losing all charitability to her now because of how she's acted lately. She used to actually, try to see both sides a little bit more, but lately, she doesn't seem to realize she herself is acting really toxic. But that's all I got for you guys today. Once again, write to me in the comments below what you think about all this. Consider supporting me on membership or Patreon if you like my work, and I'll see you guys next time.